Hello, and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. I am your host, Damon, and I'm joined by
Rob
and
Glenn.
And we're back with another episode 2 this time, and we're going to be focusing on Warcry this time, as opposed to Necromunda. We started with Necromunda, now it's off to Warcry. But first things first, I thought we probably should... a lot's happened in the past few weeks, particularly for Rob, actually.
Yeah.
So huge congratulations for Rob for becoming a dad.
Yeah,
yay! So that's
starting
awesome.
a new warband. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, we'll start with you. What have you been up to other than having a child?
That's been taking up a fair bit of my time. 3 weeks old now, so haven't got many Necro games in over the last few weeks. Kind of slid away on the campaign a little bit, but plenty of hobby time, especially in the wee hours, midnight to 2 a.m. So I've been diving into Warcry pretty hard.
Yeah. How hard?
2 boxes from the first edition, plus another 3 warbands.
Yeah.
So just bought half of Warcry.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hope your missus doesn't know how much money you spent on it as well.
She's a bit preoccupied.
As long as you buy baby stuff and that, then you're
Exactly.
Then you're all
Well,
good,
I'm not staying at home obviously at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not spending it on toll gates or lunches
fantastic.
at work. So that's how I rationalise it to myself.
You're saving money. That's what
I'm
you're doing.
saving money, exactly. I'm buying future hobby time.
Yeah.
So what have you been working on specifically, painting and stuff? Have you been printing lots of 3D stuff?
No, my printer's actually a bit out of action
right
at the moment, which is often the case with 3D printing.
Yeah.
I need a little bit of TLC, and I cannot be bothered right now. So I've got 4 warbands from those 2 box sets. So I've painted up Dark Oath Savages. They look pretty cool.
They're fully painted?
Fully painted now.
Sweet.
And Iron Golems as well. And I've also had a set of the Beastmen from Warhammer Underworlds. Grashnak's Despoilers or something like that?
Yeah, I know.
Is that the new Beastman one?
Old ones.
Old ones.
A couple of years, right?
Yeah, I just
Couple of years,
picked them up off Marketplace on the cheap and gave them a repaint. And I think they look awesome.
They look really good.
I'm like, I really want to do like a Beasts of Chaos warband, but I don't want to use like 20-year-old sculpts.
No.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
This is why games like Warcry is fantastic. At least they get updated models.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've got full rules.
Yeah, they do. Also, all the Warhammer Underworlds, except one season, Nethermaze, but all the other Underworlds bands. What do you call them? Bands?
Warbands.
Warbands?
Yeah, warbands. Same as Mordheim.
Okay. All of their warbands have all got rules, and all new ones have got rules as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'll use them.
And we played a quick game of Warcry before we got...
Just
when
a
did
little,
this.
a little quickie?
Just a real quick game. Took about half an hour, 25 minutes. And you painted up some really nice looking scenery for that.
Yeah.
Really nice looking stone that you did there.
That starter set scenery, which is a little bit hard to come by now. I picked it up
starter set was
secondhand. The original.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was that the... Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that came with Iron Golems and Untamed Beasts.
Untamed Beasts.
Which also look cool.
With the lion prowling thing.
With a big lion and some old ruins.
Yeah, nice.
Is that the one that comes with a little head as well?
Yes.
Yeah, the head's
exactly.
lovely.
Yeah. Like the old Sigmar statue.
The way that you've painted them kind of reminds me of like Lord of the Rings, like some of the statues in the films, covered in dirt and
the hand is
moss.
going down the river.
Yes, exactly. I would have to. I can't claim all the credit there. The painting coach on YouTube.
Painting coach.
Yeah, looked it up and great recipe. Just a couple of dry brushes and it looks mint.
Yeah, it looks really good. I was really impressed with that. Awesome. What are you been up to, Glenn?
Painting up a little bit more of the Necromunda, but then going all in on World Eaters. So I
have
bought a box of the that new what's it called, Combat Patrol. Came with 20 Berserkers, 10 of the new Jackals, and the new Lord and the Juggernaut, which has amazing lore. He's literally a flying guy on a juggernaut. It's amazing. He literally flies in the lore. It's like flames as he's flying through the air. Like, this is the most metal thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
They are pretty metal.
And then after that happened, I naturally had to go get Khan. So I picked him up, Khan the Betrayer.
Oh, nice. Is that a new miniature? Or?
No, I think it's 5 years old or something like that now. But it's like
Chains.
newer of those sort of ones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I've been building those up. So
Are these your first Khorne humans?
No.
Okay.
So I've got my first ever army I bought was Age of Sigmar. I got the Khorne models there.
Yeah, nice.
So Bloodbound there. So they were my first human Khornes.
Yeah, okay. But the first one's in 40k? These are your first ones in 40k?
In 40k, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, I've got regular Space Marines that I have marked at the Khorne, but actually Khorne dedicated, that's 100%, yeah.
Deep inside you, there's always a bit of chaos.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I also marked myself with chaos. I got my giant Khorne tattoo.
Yeah.
In the back of my leg.
Yes. We can't quite show that. It'd be a bit awkward, but really cool. Looks really cool. It's the Khorne symbol, right?
Yeah, it's the Khorne symbol, but the whole thing, it's based off the sigil one where it has like the demon at the bottom, all the skulls, but the guy, his art style is very
illustration, sort of
illustrated, but it feels like old Warhammer style. A lot of his stuff,
yeah.
But essentially the
Realm of Chaos era,
yeah. And so the whole thing's just made of skulls, and there's a demon there, and
fantastic.
Kind of makes me want to have like some Ian Miller stuff put on me.
Oh yeah,
I mean, fantastic.
Because the guy does specialises in old Warhammer illustrations, so I'm definitely going back to him.
Yeah.
Does your partner know the full backstory of it? That you have dedicated yourself to a god of blood and
blood and skulls. Yes.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
She was the one that pushed me to get it. So.
Oh really?
Out of the 4 gods, explaining that one to your partner is probably the easiest and probably the least sort of like odd. Because if you were trying to explain Slanesh. Or even Nurgle, actually.
I mean, I know.
Especially the last few years on explaining Nurgle.
I probably explained Slanesh all right, but I think Nurgle was
between the sheets.
I just love being gross. I'm not going to let that heal.
Well, I imagine if you're dedicated to Zine, she'd be the worst partner because you're constantly confusing, conniving.
Zinch is kind of just bipolar, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Your characteristics are going to change.
Lord of Gaslight.
Just constantly changing your mind. You're just like, I'm the changer of ways. My way has changed.
Lord of Gaslight.
I can't say that last one.
That was good. I'll give you that. In fact, there you go.
There we are.
You can't even hear this because you haven't got headphones. Rob forgot his headphones, so I tried to give him my son's headphones, but they're sadly they don't.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I mean, you say they don't work. I think you're just too embarrassed to wear them. But yeah,
I'd wear them with pride if they did work.
Nice,
but
nice.
I'm enjoying it without the headphones, to be honest.
Yeah, it's freeing.
Yeah, it is.
I need it. I need to be able to hear what I'm doing, I suppose. But
I bought these headphones for the podcast, so I bloody well use them.
Why not? All right, what have I been up to? Have you finished what you've been up to?
Yeah, I think that's about
me.
Any
more things?
I think
is this for? Sorry, I hit the mic there. Is this for 9th, or if you're building up this World Eaters Army for 10th?
This would be for 10th. So
what if you hate 10th? How do you know?
I don't think I've ever played a tabletop game that I've ever hated. So
it's iterative anyway.
What about Snakes and Ladders? I don't like that. That's not a very good game.
It's a great game.
I think it's
it's
overrated.
A lot of power in the dice, Snakes and Ladders, and we'll talk about power in the dice with Warcry later.
We will indeed. Yeah. So what have I been up to? Aeronautica Imperialis full steam. I discovered that I really love it. Kind of a bit late because I feel like Games Workshop are dropping it, perhaps by the looks of it.
When did it come out? Like 20 years ago?
No, so it came out initially
like
through Forge World. So Forge World released it a while ago, and then they released it again. More recently, the second iteration of it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. One of my mates back in Wellington bought it, and we played a couple of games, and I loved it. I just, for some reason, Necromunda took over. We never got to play it again. Mm-hmm. But I just saw the models again, and I was like, shit, they're really cool. So I ended up buying quite a few of them, and I saw that the starter sets, there are 3 starter sets, are really, really hard to get hold of at the moment. In fact, you just can't get them in Australia at the minute, really. So I thought, ooh, is this a bad sign? Yeah, it probably is. So I should probably try and buy everything now before it's too late.
The classic Games Workshop FOMO mentality, isn't it? It's like, they've only done the limited run. They're not going to reprint these. I need to get them now.
I suppose it's kind of a foolish thing to do. Is just to try and buy it all now. But I just figured that it's a really, really nice game, and I'll probably want to play it. It doesn't take up a huge amount of space. The starter sets are quite small. You only need 5 or 6 miniatures for each faction to actually play a game.
Yeah, okay.
So I've ended up with 4 or 5 factions, which is pretty cool. I'm going to play another game tomorrow.
4 or 5 factions out of how many? 5?
I think there are only 6.
Currently. So you are 1 to 2 factions off getting the entire complete game.
But I haven't got all of the stuff, but
but enough to represent.
Yeah,
for each of them.
Yeah. So that's
talking about me going hard.
Yeah.
I've only bought half of season 1 of Warcry. I think you've now bought 3/4 of Aeronautica.
Yeah, something like that. I still haven't got the 3rd box set, but it is what it is. So I've gone hard on that. I've painted up quite a lot of it. I've done my Astartes as a Badab War vibes. So I've painted each ship from a different chapter in the Badab War, which is pretty cool. So you got some Carcharodons, you got some Minotaurs, you got some Sons of Medusa, all of that jazz, pretty cool. And I've done the Eldar as well. I just need to get around to painting the others. Warcry wise, I've painted up 2 warbands so far. We've played quite a bit, but I guess we're going to get into talking about that soon. Other than that, though, yeah, that's pretty much all I've been up to. We've played some Necromunda. We're running a Necromunda campaign at the moment at the club. And I feel kind of bad because like other things have almost taken over a little bit. So Warcry's taken its place in some ways, but we're still trying to juggle playing multiple different systems all at once, mainly for this really, just so we can get a bit of research in and stuff. So
that's how it started, right?
Yeah, and now that research,
then we fell.
Now that we're doing this now, the Warcry episode, we can go back to Necromunda and focus a little bit more on that. And I won't feel quite so guilty about everybody else, but they seem to be chugging along pretty well in the campaign. So yeah, really cool. So that's what I've been up to. What else? What else do we want to talk about? Well, we want to talk about... I was going to touch on something quickly because last episode we did a little dive into history, a little history lesson there.
History lane again.
So we may as well go back to that, I think, and go back into the dungeon here. So... still going. You can hear that, right? I've turned it down a little bit this time around, but... so last time we looked at Dark Future. It was quite a cool little piece of slice of history there for you, and it directly related to Necromunda and Ash Waste and stuff as well. So I thought it was about time that we head right back to a game called Talisman. So those of you, do you remember Talisman?
No.
Do you remember Talisman?
No.
Both too young, aren't you? I barely remember
2 years younger than you?
Yeah, true. I barely remember it, but Talisman, the magical quest game, I've actually got a little piece that I'm going to read here for you, is a fantasy-themed adventure board game released by Games Workshop in 1983. So when I was 2 years old. Yeah, okay. Very long time ago. Yeah, absolutely. But the game was created by Robert Harris for the amusement of himself and his friends. The game's original objective was to become prefect of a boys' school, changing the theme to fantasy and naming the game Talisman. Harris signed a royalty publishing contract with Games Workshop, and the game was shown at Games Day in 1983. After releasing the 3rd edition, Games Workshop bought out his remaining interest as well. So it's gone through quite a few iterations, and I believe it's still going, Talisman. It's still a boxed game, I think. I haven't got it, so yeah. Oh, my cat's doing its thing again as soon as we hit the record button. It's just...
Still a box game by GW?
No, that's what we're going to get into now. Yeah. So the primary object of the game is to reach the Crown of Command at the centre of the board. The game contains 3 regions, the outer, the middle and the inner, and players start in the outer region. And they try to... Oh, sorry, just shuffles notes here. Progress to the inner region through the Valley of Fire and claim the Crown of Command. The game's name, Talisman, refers to the rule that only characters possessing a talisman card may enter a Valley of Fire. So, yes, very much a board game, and coming out in 1983. This is pretty much where it all started in regards to things like Hero Quest, Advanced Hero Quest, and other sort of board-based RPG games.
Is it pre-Hero Quest then?
I think it is. 83. Yeah. 83 is going back a bit. Hero Quest came out when? Mid to late 80s,
like 86 or something like that, wasn't
it?
Yeah. 88.
Hero Quest was awesome. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
But yeah, gameplay begins by selecting a character, a hero, just like you would in Hero Quest with your barbarian and your dwarf and stuff, but you've got far more choice in the characters. There's a bard. There's all sorts of different guys that you got in there. And all the characters have attributes of life, strength, and craft. So those are the sort of stats that we had back then. All characters start with 4 lives and a bag of gold, but different characters start with different levels of strength and craft and have different special gameplay abilities. Players then take turns rolling a die, moving their characters and following the board's instructions for the locations where they land. Locations may activate events, initiate encounters, or provide adventure cards. Adventure cards may be events, encounters, places, or treasure, and the cards sometimes remain on the board for other players to land on. Through the gameplay, players search for a talisman while increasing their character's attributes to become strong enough to venture inward to the Crown of Command. Once at the Crown, a character can cast the command spell, causing opponents to lose 1 life each time it is successfully cast, and the game is over when all opposing players have lost their lives.
Nasty.
Really, really, really simple, straightforward game. I haven't played it for many, many years, and it hasn't really changed since then, but it's pretty much the first example I can think of a sort of Dungeons & Dragons type directly board game, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, back in the 80s, everything was kicking off, wasn't it? Yeah. So, well, late 70s, 80s, I suppose, with Dungeons & Dragons and things like this. But yeah, Talisman really was, I suppose, in a lot of ways, the sort of primordial precursor to everything that we're going to be talking about on this podcast, I suppose. So it was worth highlighting it there. I don't know a huge amount of Talisman. I don't have a copy. I did have a copy when I was a kid, but didn't spend a lot of time playing it, unfortunately. So I'm sure many of you can chime in on that one. But I believe that the game has been passed over from Games Workshop back in the 90s, maybe, to another company, I think, and they're still doing it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I wonder if it's one of the big ones, like a Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think it's one of the slightly smaller companies, yeah. But yeah, again, I'm not actually sure at the moment. But yeah, just thought I'd do a little piece there on that. So neither of you had any experience with Talisman at all?
No. Never heard of it, to be honest.
Yeah. It's one of those original OG Games Workshop games. Yeah.
I'm trying to actually think if we had a copy of Hero Quest or Warhammer Quest in the house growing up. It's from my older brother, who was 6 years my senior. And I mean, the box art is pretty similar from memory.
No, you'd know if you had it.
Who's the Conan one?
Yeah, right.
He's the barbarian.
That's Hero Quest.
Okay, it's Hero
That
Quest.
is Hero Quest.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does Warhammer Quest? It doesn't also have like a Conan-esque.
It has a Conan-esque thing, but he's kind of looked down the side, I think, and looking forward.
You're talking about the cover art?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the difference between Hero Quest and Warhammer Quest is obviously, Warhammer Quest is based in the Warhammer universe, and Hero Quest isn't, technically, because even though it was loosely derived from Games Workshop, it was still... Which was it? Hasbro? It wasn't Hasbro. Was it? I don't know what the name of the game is.
This is like
MG games, something like that. MB games.
4-year-old nostalgia. Trying to I was just like, oh wow, there's a bookshelf and a fireplace.
And a gargoyle.
Yeah, and a little skull that you plug into the top.
On another note, have either of you guys seen that guy's YouTube video? It's been
that is the best YouTube.
You know what I mean, right?
Welcome to Warhammer Quest. Yeah,
it's the best.
It's the best game.
Yeah, like that guy. I can't remember his name, but shout out to him. It's the funniest. You need to watch that if you haven't seen it.
It is.
It's basically him doing a review of Hero Quest, like as a just is in character of like this super nerd, and it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He does a load of others, but that one punched well above its weight. He's got so many views, it's brilliant.
All of his videos are fantastic. It's him in this certain character, but it's so good.
But I guess back then you had computer games, video games of stuff like that too. So you had like games like Gauntlet, which was again similar to, I believe,
when did Hero Quest come out?
80s,
yeah.
80s, but
80s,
so it'll be text-based, so games.
Yeah.
Oh no, late 80s you had some video size stuff.
I think, like what was that, Commodore era?
Yeah,
some basic
graphics. I had a Spectrum ZX, which was just green screen, asteroids, things like that. But we also had games like Gauntlet, which I think is kind of like Hero Quest, but that sort of top down.
That's about NES
dungeon crawler and stuff.
80s.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
NES was 80s as well. Yeah.
Oh god, I'm sorry guys.
Yeah.
I'm blaming you fatherhood on this. I'm like, NES color graphics. I was thinking Commodore was like, Commodore,
Rob
hasn't
slept
four colours, 8 colours or something?
How long have you not slept for?
It hasn't been too bad, but I am doing night shifts, so... Yeah. I've still got another, 6 hours ahead of me yet.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So, Hero Quest... I remember Hero Quest coming out when I was a kid and seeing the advert. Have you rewatched the trailer that it had? So it had a really cool trailer, and it had like guys in goblin suits and prosthetics and stuff, like full on... They spent a lot of money on the trailer, obviously, and it really, loads of dungeon doors swinging open and goblins inside and stuff like that. You go and watch it; it's really good. But
it was only recently, wasn't it? Last year that they did a re-release, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's like same jazz, same box, right?
They got similar, but the miniatures are modern, which is just modern miniatures. They're just not nearly as good.
They're still pretty good. They're good miniatures.
Oh, they're good miniatures,
but they're not
the OG miniatures.
What do you mean? As in like. When you say modern
design in terms of fantasy and things like that, so a lot more like horror
way more detailed and
not your typical orcs were.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha.
I like that though. I like the skeletons with the
sides.
with the sides.
Wasn't the gargoyle or the big evil? That was 2 pieces back in the day.
So the gargoyle, no, it was one piece. It's about this big, but the gargoyle. Check this out. The gargoyle was the original bloodthirster.
I know that. Of course I know that.
Because the metal bloodthirster that came out in the still 80s, probably Realm of Chaos era, 2nd edition, 40k era, I suppose, or even earlier. That bloodthirster looked exactly the same. It had the same pose, had the whip and the sword and the wings, pretty much dog head.
Which is interesting when you
get
Hero
Quest.
When you get the in Hero Quest, he's the gargoyle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Hero Quest was a different company though. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think...
And then GW did Warhammer Quest Ocean at a later date.
I don't know too much, but I think Hero Quest was... maybe they bought the IP from Games Workshop or something like that. But I think it was MB Games, I believe, off the top of my head, that did it. But yeah, we're all not very knowledgeable about this.
I want to say Games Workshop did it, but it wasn't under their... what do you call it?
Yeah.
Their... they didn't... What is it called? What's the name?
Producer,
developer. Yeah. They kind of developed it, but they didn't release it. They weren't the publisher.
Yep.
And I think what happened is it was success, and so whoever kind of ran with it, they took it their way, and Games Workshop were like, we'll do our own thing. We'll make Warhammer Quest. Okay. And that's where I think that's where that kind of iteration kind of kept going.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have a feeling they had their fingers in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here, Warhammer Quest. So skipping a little bit, there was actually Advanced Hero Quest and Space Crusade and Advanced Space Crusade. They weren't that much more advanced than the original ones, but they were clearly much more... at the time, I remember them in White Dwarf magazine and stuff, so they were clearly like much more linked to Games Workshop, the advanced versions, I think. Again, could be wrong, my memory's failing and I'm getting old.
We all are.
That is what it is. But yeah, those were some good times. And then Warhammer Quest obviously came out. The first iteration of Warhammer Quest came out in the 90s, I believe, or the early noughties. Must have been the 90s.
Wasn't that far off as... Yeah.
And that was really good. That was a really, really good game. Super RPG element, loads of cool stuff. They had a few expansion packs, nice miniatures actually, and you had single miniature heroes that you could buy in boxes. I remember having the Pit Fighter, who was a really, really cool miniature, and a Witch Hunter as well, which was really good. But they released lots of single box metal miniatures for each hero as expansions. Yeah, and in that box came the hero's card, fighter card and everything in there as well. So... Again, like seriously, almost like, you can, again, we're talking about Warcry here, but how does that relate to the Warcry warbands with all the cards that come in the box and everything? It's pretty cool. So yeah, that was that, and this is this. So there you go. So Warhammer Quest was awesome. That's what I want to say.
I was going to say that's a pretty natural segue to Warcry itself.
Absolutely. Let's get straight in there with. I think we're all very excited about this. To kick things off with Warcry, so, obviously on the channel, if you've watched YouTube and stuff, it's been quite heavily Necromunda focused for the last year, but it's worth saying that we definitely want to branch out into other specialist games, and Warcry has been on the radar for all three of us, especially for you, because you have really fully dived into it, I suppose, with all the...
Look, I don't believe in doing things by halves, right? So
you may as well... Exactly, yeah. So for the last 3-4 weeks, we've played quite a few games. I've probably played the most games, but only by a small amount. But I'd say between us, we probably played 20 games, maybe something like that.
No idea.
Maybe less, maybe more.
Quite a few though.
But I think now we're in a position that we've got our heads around the mechanics of the game. We understand the lore a little bit. You probably understand the lore a bit more coming from Age of Sigmar.
Just a fraction more.
Yeah, absolutely. You've deep dived into it completely, and I've been looking at it probably from slightly more of a meta angle. Actually, I've been looking at paying attention to tournaments and stuff that's going on. Saw that there was a tournament at Warhammer Fest, and just looking at it from that angle and actually seeing, is this actually quite a tournament-worthy game, and I've been looking at other creators on YouTube as well. So there's been quite a few notable creators on YouTube, I suppose, that we'll shout out at some point on this as well. It's been really interesting getting into it, especially coming from Necromunda.
Did you want to give the overview, mate?
Oh, I think one of you might have to do this. I did it on Necromunda. How about you? You could probably.
I stumbled horrendously doing it on Necro, so
you're the lore guy.
I'm the lore guy. I'm not so much the game.
The lore master. Yeah.
How far back do we go?
Well, all right, before we go into lore, then, all right, quick mechanics. Let's do a quick mechanics run through on Warcry.
I think we should do the setting first.
You want to do the setting first?
Yeah, I think we should do the setting first. Yeah.
Okay.
Tell our viewers what is Warcry and where does it fit into the narrative of Age of Sigmar, I suppose.
So we start in the end times. Essentially, the roundup of the lore of Age of Sigmar. The end times happened. And what happened there was all the winds of magic were going nuts, and Teclis did everything right, but then everything went wrong, especially with a certain vampire that was obviously an absolute prick and ruined everything. I thought you knew about it.
I know none of this lore, so treat me like I'm a 3-year-old.
Essentially, all you need to know is essentially M-World was happening. Yeah. What they did was they kind of Teclis tried to make all the winds of magic, all the all the schools of magic and stuff, and then try to give that to individuals. That went awry. Everything went bad. Archaon won. Everything exploded. It imploded. So Chaos won.
The old world died. The apocalypse happened, and the old world was no longer.
It died. Chaos won. Everything exploded. What happened with that? It got sucked in, and because all the winds of magic were separated, they then formed off and then became the new realms that got made. So there's 8 realms in the Age of Sigmar. There's
the mortal realms.
The mortal realms.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's what's it? I'm just going to see if I can get the top of my head.
Fuck, good
there's
luck,
there's the life, death. There's so life, death. There's the realm of light. There's the realm of shadow. There is
metal.
The realm of metal. There's the realm of fire. There's the holy realm, which is kind of the gods.
It's a lot of realms.
And then there's also what's the final realm?
Realm of Chaos.
Realm of Beast.
The realm of Beast.
Realm of Chaos is kind of a separate thing. These are the mortal realms.
Right.
And then there's the demons.
Chaos kind of like underlies,
Okay.
And then one kind of in between, which I kind of gets to the Warcry thing, is called the 8 points now.
Points.
And it was originally the all points. So essentially what happens, all those realms kind of come through, they exist.
Yeah.
And that's where the realm of myth Age of Myth starts, and that's where Sigmar himself finds himself in these realms and is kind of guided through.
Like a Zeus-esque archetype, right? Just doing all the shit, building all the shit.
Building other shit. Yeah. And there's civilizations that are slowly building on. There's literally been thousands of years of like people rebuilding and stuff. Then, obviously, as mortals do, they bring up the chaos. Chaos gets interested. People get corrupted. Everything goes to crap. Chaos wins. And then what happens is the end is Sigmar shuts himself off in the realm of, I think it's the gods or holy. I think that's
Azri? Is it AZ?
Azir. Sorry, I should actually name it by the actual name.
Yep.
So he's in the realm of Azir, and he shuts off the gates and kind of goes, everything's screwed. I'm shutting my gates. You guys are on your own. And
in other words, he had a bit too much hubris. He fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah, and retreated.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what happens is then chaos takes over everything. Chaos wins again.
The age of chaos.
So Chaos just keeps winning.
Yep, chaos keeps winning.
Sigmar's just not very good.
No.
Yeah.
And obviously from that kind of situation, that's where he has to try and make a counterattack, and worked out he can't fight the battles anymore.
Right.
And that's where you get the, what do you call it?
Stormcast.
So Stormcast Eternals were made. There's a long story with that. I'm not going to bother with that.
AKA Sigmarines.
I still don't like that.
I don't take it personally. I mean, it's just.
I know, but
there is a little bit of personal.
My natural reaction to that is people call it Sigmarines, and people are like, I just think that's crap. I'm not going to take attention to it. Like, no, you're dismissing something that's really good, and it's bad for you because you're missing out on something awesome.
Yeah.
But essentially, this is when the Age of Sigmar starts, when all of a sudden the doors open up. They come out and try and take back some of the worlds. And this is what's been happening all these years now. So ever since it started. But even then, it's been, 8 years now into the game, or where it is now.
2015, I think we were chatting before.
Yeah. So they've kind of smashed that out, and with the story progressing, and even then with all the heroes winning and stuff, they've only managed to take back 10% of the land, if even. So it sounds like this big glorious thing they're winning. No, Chaos is still winning.
Yeah. But there is hope.
So
where all hope is fading or something.
Yeah, it goes good and bad depending what you kind of go through. Yeah. So a lot of things happen. There's a lot of in-betweens, and essentially how you travel between each of the realms, I think it's called Realm Gates. That was a whole other book series as well about the Realm Gate Wars, which was where they were trying to take back over each of the realms. How this leads to is what the place in Warcry is. So what Warcry is it's called the 8 points, but what it originally was called the All Points. And the reason it was the All Points because it was the one place where all the realms met in one spot. So all the realm gates were there. And so it was called the All Points, and so it was a place where trade was happening because everyone from each realm should catch it up. Surprise, surprise. Chaos wins, take over it, and renames it the 8 Points.
Well, the 8 points is related to the 8-pointed star of Chaos.
Yep, and there's 8 realms.
8 realms. It's all kind of blurs into one a little bit. Multifaceted symbolism.
And so this is where obviously Archaon sets up, and obviously that's where the Baron Gates and all that sort of thing come through and take over that whole realm. And then essentially this is where all the way forward now becomes Warcry, and essentially this is where the arenas are and all the kind of the base lore, or at least the start of Warcry, because I think it's kind of expanded now, because now it's in the realm of beasts. Yeah. But it started off in the 8 points. So that's kind of how...
Yeah. So I might jump on there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that effectively encapsulates the initial launch of Warcry.
Yeah.
And it was all about these Chaos warbands that weren't your classical Chaos followers. They weren't, following Nurgle or following Khorne. They were following Chaos in a kind of abstract way.
Yeah.
And that was because the Age of Chaos, as Clinton said, had taken over everything.
Yeah.
So everyone's fucking evil, in some different description.
Perspective.
And they all worship Chaos in their own way.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting in the 8 points. In one particular 8th, actually, from memory. I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, one section of the 8 points. And that's where the first setting is set. But last year, they re-released Warcry. And it's actually not that different. It's a bit confusing for people first coming into the game, though, because they're like, oh, shit, I've seen all this stuff on the shelves, different logo, what's going on here? I've got, how can I play my Stormcast Eternals, that sort of thing.
Careful with the banging.
Sorry. Thanks, Dad. From there, the re-release, the rules haven't changed that much, but they opened it up to the full Age of Sigmar range. So it's now set in
the realm of Gur, which is the realm of beasts.
In a particular area called Gnarlwood, which is like a big-ass nasty forest.
Yeah.
Same setting as Warhammer Underworlds at the moment.
So
and we've seen...
The idea of realm of beasts is what makes it interesting is everything is alive and everyone wants to attack each other. To the point where you look on the map, the seas look like they actually have mouths. There's things of mountains moving and attacking people that are there. So the thing's so wild that the actual environment is attacking people.
That's pretty cool.
I think it's just Gur's currently the setting for a lot of the main
line Age of Sigmar,
lore.
and that's which is really, I'm not going to go into that, but that kind of each of the seasons and things happening there, it's happening in there right now, and the rules are actually reflective of that. So it's kind of nice having your whole game changes, like the competitive is based off the lore in that realm, which is kind of nice and fun.
So basically, there were Chaos and a couple of other warbands for Warcry version 1.
Yeah, well, a lot of chaos. It was just chaos, wasn't it?
No, a couple others.
Was it?
Yeah, just a couple of. There was like
and a couple others, and then they kind of like hot patched some rules for some of the other bands, and they were bad.
And Warhammer Underworlds at the time, they got the warbands from there got rules as well. And then for this new release, actually, then they put some more in, but then they said, "Fuck it, for 2.0, here's all the rules." They actually put them up on Warhammer Community. For all the actual fighter cards, like the stat lines.
Yeah.
So every faction.
I reckon that's the smartest thing they did, because there you can just go get your rules rather than going like, oh, how do I get into it? Like, you don't need to. They've got the basic rules there. They've got the cards there. You can just go play.
Everything you need to play is there. Yeah. If you just want to play a normal match, if you want to play narrative stuff, that's when you got to buy things.
Yeah, that's the stuff I haven't really looked at as much, the narrative stuff so far. In fact, I haven't looked at any of the lore or the narrative, so all of this is going way over my head. It's not that I'm not interested in it, it's just I usually tend to, when I pick up a book of any sort, I tend to skip straight to the meat of the whole thing, I suppose, with the rules and mechanics.
I feel like Warcry's kind of got 3 different scenes. You've got the bespoke stuff, which is what the box sets often have. They do have. Warbands have been created for the setting with a bespoke list and new models, and they've been looking amazing. You've got the competitive scene, which sometimes has bespoke warbands, but often it's made up of the main AOS lists, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then the third pathway is that narrative pathway, which I've done a little bit of reading on it. We haven't had time really to do a dabble into it in our hobby time, but there is some like Mordheim nods there.
It's meant to be very good, the narrative.
I've touched on it a little bit, but there seems those 3 camps. You've got people just buying a box, buying bespoke, playing with what you get in the box. You've got people who are doing all this list building and making competitive lists and doing a meta, which is probably more your scene.
Yeah, well, it's not that. It's just that seems to be what I'm drawn to initially, I suppose, and before the other stuff. So I guess it's just a different order.
At the end of the game, it's a game. You're interested in the game part.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm also interested in the miniature part, which is fantastic. Like the miniatures, as we said before, are some of the best, if not the best, currently that Games Workshop release.
Well, to be honest, the entire Age of Sigmar range
is fantastic. Such an amazing job. It really, really is. But yeah, Warcry are the best spoke warbands for me.
They're amazing.
So amazing.
The amount of character.
And the monsters too, actually. In fact, all of it. Just anything with Warcry stamped on it is for me. So, if for those of you that haven't played, obviously, I personally found Warcry very accessible.
Yeah. Short games.
And I don't mean it's accessible in terms of like buying stuff. I mean, accessible in terms of the actual game itself.
Pretty accessible cost of entry too.
Yeah, you think?
Like I think easier than Necromunda.
Yeah,
because you can buy a box, so Australian dollars.
You also don't need to buy.
$60.
You don't need to buy a hardback book for your warband either.
No, rules are online.
Yeah.
And I feel like Necromunda, the amount of terrain you need, you almost need a city-like landscape. You don't need it as much. But,
no, you're right.
But with
it relies on terrain.
22 inches by 30, so same as a Kill Team board.
Yeah.
And you
don't need that much terrain.
Fuck, you can do it with scatter, but often like a couple of small level 1 height terrain, and a few pieces, and that's it.
So stripping it right back to the very beginning, kind of what is Warcry exactly? I would say that it is obviously a skirmish war game. I suppose you're using usually about 10 to 15 miniatures at most.
I'd say 7 to 15.
Yeah, 7 to 15 miniatures at most.
Alternating turns.
Yeah, alternating turns, just like Necromunda,
setting, obviously.
How much of a fantasy version of Kill Team is it? Is it? Can you actually compare the two and say, okay? Are there similarities, or
that's
are there
actually how I thought originally? I'm like, okay, it's fantasy Kill Team. Right. It's totally different. It's a lot more.
The only thing related, they're both skirmish games. That's the only thing they have in common.
Randomness is a major factor of Warcry,
but not of Kill Team.
Besides dice, obviously dice are random, but with Warcry, effectively, unless you're doing a tournament, your terrain setup is randomised. It can be done by cards. Your victory conditions are randomised by a deck. Your deployments are randomised, and also a twist, which can be game defining, is also random. Not only that, each turn, how it's based off, is off dice rolls. Yeah, so after we go, the one-on-one mechanics, you roll 6 dice each turn. You pair up the like numbers.
Yep.
So if I have 3 2s, that's called a triple with a value of 2.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. And you use those to activate your special powers, or abilities, as they're called in Warcry.
I think we can all agree that the first thing that stood out to me mechanically was the initiative phase, and rolling those 6d6 it's just super intuitive and fun. Really, really cool way of doing things, and really easy to get to grips with. In fact, the whole thing is easy to get to grips with, isn't it? Really, and that's what's cool. Is once you've got the core rules down, you can play a game very, very quickly. And that's where the next stuff comes in terms of
combat
the tactical.
is quick, right? Like a fighter doesn't attack or uses an ability, whatever. But whatever damage it rolls, boom, that's off the HP, off the.
Essentially, coming from a 40k Necromunda thing, there's no essentially. Imagine you're just doing the wound roll and that's it. No save.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So under the rule, what's your
there's no to hit.
Yeah. There's no to hit. So it's like, what's your strength? What's my strength? All right, I'm rolling 4s, and here's the damage.
Well, unlike Necromunda, where you have to roll to hit and roll to wound separately, and a save. So that's actually 3 brought down into 1.
Yeah, 3 processes.
Yeah. I guess the criticism a lot of people have coming into it first time, if you're coming from a game like Necromunda, like I did, was that is it too simple? And I think a lot of people, if on first impressions, might go, "Oh, this is way too simple. I'm used to really, really, in depth, awesome stuff." It's kind of very refreshing, actually.
I think it's instead of it being too simple, what it does is it kind of makes it a little bit more even, the barrier to entry, and then you actually, say, all right, here are the constraints of the gameplay. It's up to the individual then to how strategic they get on top of that.
And it gets rid of the crap you get from a lot of it. I think they think it's simple, but I think what actually happens is it's simpler in terms of straightforward. And so the tactics you're actually watching on is actually, what are your abilities? What can I do here? Rather than working out, I'm like, well, if I put this person here 1.5 inches further away and then give him this buff to get this buff, it's like, that doesn't work like that. It's very straightforward. And so you actually concentrate on the actual tactics of the battle rather than measurements. And
I'd say streamlined, not simplified.
Yeah. No, you're quite right. And that's exactly what Games Workshop have been saying about 10th edition Warhammer the whole time. They're like, not simple, but just streamlined.
Simpler. Was it simpler, not simple?
I can't remember what their tagline was, but we'll see it. I believe it when I see it. So the thing that I've also found is, I've played a couple of warbands now. You guys have played just the one. Oh, you played 2 different warbands. You played just the one.
I just spoke on demons.
I've played 2 different warbands that are very, very different, which is really cool. I'm glad that I've played 2 very different warbands. Sybarites of Slaanesh, which I love, and the Chaos Legionnaires. Yeah, and they're both very, very different, which is really cool. So I've got a nice big, big difference between the two to compare, I suppose. And the thing about Warcry that is unique to anything else is that stats are stats. It doesn't really matter what the stats are so much, but the abilities is where the real character comes in to your warbands. And that's where the uniqueness between each warband really, really comes in, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The abilities that you get. And usually you're going to get, 5, 6 different unique abilities per warband. Some of them are doubles, some of them are triples, some of them are quads.
Now, 6. Some of the old Age of Sigmar ones, they've got 2 lists, one for fighters, one for heroes.
Yeah.
But for every new one they release, there'll be 6. And 1 reaction.
Exactly, one unique reaction for that warband. Yep. So basically what the abilities are, unlike skills that you might have on certain characters in Necromunda or Mordheim or something like that, these abilities can be used sometimes, depending on the fighter type, sometimes for the entire warband. But this is how you use your doubles, your triples, your quads. And that's where that comes in, is the sort of the juggling of your dice pool.
And as you said, it's an interesting system how they've allocated them to the fighters. So the actual fighters themselves are represented by a card, right? They've got 6 or 8 stats. They've got a weapon profile, which has got attacks, strength, range, normal damage, and crit damage, like your 6s.
Yeah.
And then move, toughness, wounds.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And points. That's the other one.
And the cost. But it's also got this thing called rune marks. And the rune marks are what associated with potential abilities.
Yep.
So sometimes you might have for your warband, you'll have an abilities card.
Yep.
And you might have, one rune that's only represented by 1 fighter.
Yeah.
It's up to you if you take that fighter or not. If you don't, obviously you can't use that ability.
Yeah.
But then you might have one that's represented by 3 of your fighters, or you might have an ability that affects fighters with a particular rune mark. For your undead guys, a lot of it is you might have minion rune marks, like the plebs, the skellies, and you can resurrect them, for example.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So what were our findings on playing it, obviously, after playing quite a few games? What have your...
I find it refreshing. It is super quick. Yep. It is extremely random. But I like that randomness. I feel like the randomness of the setting, you can...
What do you mean it's extremely random? Obviously, I know the
the way we've been playing is we've been using the cards to generate what mission we play.
Yeah.
So that will dictate the conditions, and just like our game before, sorry, I'm up the table again, is based on a particular role, really dictated the outcome of that game, which was an objective would go in a quarter of the map.
Yeah,
and just so much that landed right
we were saying,
all my dudes were.
Yeah, exactly. And if it landed in mine, then I probably would have won.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm okay. I'm actually a big fan of kind of putting things to the gods, if you will, putting it in a dice roll or randomizing it, because I feel like I can focus on the stuff that I can control and I enjoy, and it stops it going too far down that. Yeah. Oh no, that was an eighth of an inch out, or you've got 58% cover, not 49%. That really anally retentive approach.
You can't really get too salty about things as well, because of the randomness. It's shit happens. We'll just play another game.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you can churn through a game in less than an hour, no problem.
Oh, absolutely. Me and you played 3 games in a very short space of time.
Very short period.
And they were all quite different games, very different objectives and stuff as well, but super, super quick and super, like you said, very, very refreshing indeed.
It's like you said, the amount of games you have, obviously you got your kill teams, you got your 40Ks, you got your Necromunda, obviously in the 40K universe and things like that, but it's refreshing to play that game to a point where you learn the game, you're like, oh, is that it? As you're like, oh, that's actually nice.
Let's just get into it.
Yeah, are you looking for the tiny complexes and there must be something else that happens here? I'm like, no, they just take damage. All right, let's move on, next bit.
I mean, you've still got Games Workshop's funny rules writing scenario. Where you've got an ability that's just it's
you have to read it about 5 times and go well, technically I can interpret as this.
But you could strip it down to meaning something else. But the reason why they do that is because of those rules lawyers that are out there who are really antsy about the very particular, you have to word it in a particular way.
Will twist it.
Yeah, they will. And rules as intended versus rules as written can be a real thing, particularly in Necromunda. We see that all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, Necromunda's a hot mess, but that's why I like it.
My cat is really annoying me.
One thing I did want to... Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, one thing I did want to call out that is another big difference between version 1 and version 2 is that version 2 kind of deconstructs the concept of warband a bit. Like we've been talking about warbands like you've got a singular list, but in 2.0 you can do a thing called allies.
Oh yeah.
Which is you effectively can get heroes from another warband that's part of your Grand Alliance. And when you're talking about you can have a team, as 7 fighters, or it could be a bit over a dozen. But if you can have 2 heroes from another warband or another faction, plus a monster, plus potentially thralls, you can have up to half your warband from different factions entirely. So it really deconstructs that warband list, and it's a lot more.
It's pretty straightforward as well.
Yeah,
not complicated.
You just need a calculator, right? And you just add them up. You don't need to worry about loadouts because it's all embedded into the fighter profile.
That is another hugely refreshing thing about it, is the lack of clutter when it comes to stuff like that. Again, I keep having to compare it to Necromunda and that, but having multiple fighter cards for each fighter,
exactly.
because they don't have that much stuff they can carry. It's just like it's so much clutter, so much stuff that you have to keep track of. Whereas with this, it's like, okay, I can either have an axe or a sword. So that one's got an axe, that one's got a sword.
Yeah. And you've literally you're given 2 different cards for them too.
Yeah. You have got most of the cards, haven't you? You've got card packs for all the Age of Sigmar stuff as well, I believe.
Yep. Not for this version, you don't.
Right.
But again, the rules are up online.
Yeah, true.
So
they have cards themselves, so you can print them off.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so what you were saying about the allies thing?
I think that's very much there's a very active Warcry Discord up there that I've definitely been jumping in and getting in the chats.
Yeah.
And a lot of the competitive, that meta scene.
I was just about to say that exact same thing.
It's all around list building is a big factor.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, good gameplay and being able to play the game and being able to, apply strategy is a massive factor. But a lot of the meta discussion is around list building.
It is, yeah. And most of those lists, it seems, include a monster at some point. Quite a lot of the time, anyway.
Although I think they seem to have got nerfed recently in the start of the year, and so they cost a shitload more.
Yeah,
but they always seem to have at least an ally.
Yeah,
so there's a little bit of list building there,
and it's usually a big tanky thing that they can use, like a Formeride Crusher or something like that.
That can often mitigate.
That seems to happen. But yeah, really, really, really interesting. I've been watching a bit of YouTube stuff from other creators. Salty Sea was one of them.
Yeah, I think. Probably
shout out to Salty Sea.
A couple of call outs on other content creators there. Salty Sea is very much in your vein.
Yeah,
Damon.
It's really weird because I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know anyone. Well, I guess, of course, other people exist that do similar things for other systems, but I just hadn't looked at it yet. And I thought, this is weird. This guy almost does what I do for Necromunda, but for Warcry.
Yeah, talking about the different meta, how to build a list, different ways of putting those together, different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, he's obviously got a very good analytical mind as well because he's good with numbers and stuff, way better than I am. So, yeah.
A couple others that actually I found really handy getting my head into. Optimal Game State. Shout out to Baz from Optimal Game State. Some great video content there. Some great website content. I actually got published a summary of Gnarlwood in general.
Right.
Did a video there, and that was great. So, there's only so much you get from the actual books, but it's nice to just see it in video form.
Yeah.
And just be like, all right, here are all the icons, here's the current state of it, here are, different factions kind of lying around. And the last one is Tabletop Skirmish Games.
I don't think I know that one.
I don't know a dude who runs
Rings
it.
a bell, though.
Say again?
Rings a bell, that one.
YouTube icons like a crow or something, if that helps.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Right.
But he does a fair bit of content, fair bit of Underworlds content, fair bit of Warcry content, Kill Team, but not stuff like Necro where we've been dabbling in more.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Nice accessible content. All right, like what the hell? It's a bit overwhelming in like any of these games that exist for a while. Where to start? They were great YouTube ones. The other one probably worth mentioning is website warcry.net.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Warcry.
Seems to have all the rules, which is pretty handy. So it's it's got like a digital version of all those PDFs.
Absolutely everything Warcry.
Yeah, it seems to have a lot. So
it made it so much easier when we're playing our games, like having it available, easily done.
Well, not just that, but it's also got a down at the bottom. You've got a few links on the thing.
True. You've got
they have one that we have
been using those. There's like a
a battle selector sort of.
Yes, so we've been talking about the random cards at the start, which are different decks that you do get in the box sets, but someone's got built an app that actually lets you generate those. So you tick the box of the scenery you've got, what decks you want for victories, etc., and it'll generate them for you, which is fantastic. There's a card creator, which is awesome. And that is actually by the Optimal Game State dude, Baz. So what you can do is create your fighter card that you get with the boxes, but you can chuck your own image in there.
I love those things.
Which is nice. So you take a photo.
So of your miniature.
Yeah,
very cool.
A bit like Yak Tribe and Necromunda. Like I always like to take a picture of my mini and upload it. So
there's one for Kill Team as well, isn't there? I think something like that. Someone did something similar.
Yep. I know the one you're talking about. So that's really handy. There's a couple other resources in that warcry.net as well.
Loads of stuff out there. But thoroughly been enjoying the game in general, and looking forward to playing a lot more of it anyway.
It was one where, even like obviously when I was more into Age of Sigmar, this is before I got into 40k, that kind of came out. I was excited for it and I couldn't find anyone to play for it. It was one of the ones like, I should jump in, but don't want to buy a box set yet. And, there's separate miniatures and things like that. And then I think once, obviously as soon as I heard, someone's playing Warcry, I'm like, I'm just going to jump straight onto it.
When I was in New Zealand, I mean, the price for stuff in New Zealand is even higher than it is in Australian dollars, I believe, but the Games Workshop stuff. But I think the box set for Warcry, the one that you've got over there, not that one, sorry, the other one, it's off camera, the one with the Iron Golems and the Dark Oath guys was over $400.
Yeah, okay, yep. I mean,
now that is difficult for a lot of people.
I think RRP-wise, they're both, all the boxes were around 300 Australian.
Oof,
the expansion of the, Games Workshop are doing the quarterly season boxes.
Yeah.
The ones after the Heart of Gur were slightly cheaper, maybe $250 here.
Yeah.
But Heart of Gur was still like 300 or over, which is, it's a fair chunk of change, especially in this economic climate.
But when you look at it though, like they sell the individual, like if you get a box of things like that, that's $110. Yeah. Then you get that, he goes, there's those two things. I'm like, there's $220. Then I can see where they're getting the prices from. Like it is, but at the same time, if you're trying to buy it individially, it's still so much cheaper. Than what
now I've played it.
Yep.
Now we've played it. We realise that we don't actually need any of the stuff at all.
The
dice are just D6.
But
it's not like Necromunda. The dice aren't unique. They're just D6s. So all you need is a bunch of D6s. It is more accessible and cheaper, and I would say to get into than say Necromunda.
Yeah.
You don't need the gang book. You don't need the unique dice. You don't need a vehicle to go along with your crew. You don't need a lot of stuff.
It's probably more accessible to Kill Team too. Like unless you go to, Kill Team rules are always online, like Wikipedia. But if you're trying to do it legitimately, and you still need to buy a book, buy a box set, which you can't fucking buy half the time because it's sold out.
But Kill Team, you get the book. I'm like, oh, another good book. I'm like, well, now you got to buy the ruler. That also comes with the barricades, and then you need the tokens because the tokens are so important about that.
True.
So thankfully they actually sell that separately, and it is actually reasonably priced for the ruler and the tokens and that sort of things. But it's kind of honestly, you don't just buy the book. I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, no, you need the tokens, you need the ruler. I think remember when that came out that. So I think everyone goes like, that's stupid, that's big. And then as soon as the game came out, everyone's like, actually, that's a really good tool.
I tell you what, the tool is great, but I still cannot stand that they call
square triangle thing.
1 inch is 2 inches is white circle.
No, mate, it's 2 circles.
That wherever it is triangle, square, circle as the measurements, and then they'll do like 2 circle, which is
I can't
2
stand
inches.
it.
I think
I really can't stand it.
I didn't mind it once you actually painted the thing with the correct colour. Because they said like blue triangle and you see your thing blue. Like, okay, cool, move.
Yeah.
It still would have been easy to say 4 inches, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But my
or is it 3 inches?
I don't know. I need to see the symbol on the thing.
I guess Warcry's got a similar thing with the it's not really similar, but with the icons for the fighters. For me, that was a little bit like overwhelming at first because I'm having to look at the faction rune marks.
Yeah, yep.
It's similar, but not the same. You have to learn that a little bit before you start using your abilities fluently. But again, like once you've played 2 or 3 games with a warband, then you've kind of got that down already.
I think,
and like I was saying to you, like when me and Glyn played, and I was like, and I'm just kind of feeding back to you how it went. The thing that we realised is obviously the universal abilities are the ones that you need to master first before you even look at your unique warband's abilities. Because once you've got the universal ones down, they're pretty straightforward, aren't they? There's one gives you +1 attack, one gives you +1 movement, one gives you, Really straightforward. You get those down, and they're just in your head. You don't even need to look them up.
Yeah.
And then you've got your unique warband ones as well. Yeah.
But knowing me though, like I'm like, yeah, it's universal, but I want to play fluffy. I'm like, I want to use just their rules.
Well, you had about 10 flesh hounds running at me, and you realised that none of them could climb.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Because they're flesh hounds.
There's 2 flesh hounds and a what do you call it? Blood.
Maybe they can't. I don't know what. But mounted stuff can't. I know that much.
The mounted can't. The doggos couldn't.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're beasts.
I don't know. Something like that. But it's very simple. Yeah. Some guys can climb, some guys can't. You know. But yeah, really, really, really awesome. The experience
there
so far.
is a starter set coming out for Warcry. So Warcry, obviously, if you kind of homebrew it a bit, get the rules from Warcom, but use whatever dice at home, then you can probably, if you've got Age of Sigmar, you can probably build a warband already. If you haven't, you could probably do it for $50-$60 Australian by getting like
Age of Sigmar starter sets.
By getting some Stormcast journals.
If you can still get the it was a really good set.
Well,
the old Soul Wars starting set, and actually has each of the units that you can kind of come with.
Yeah,
it's actually and those splits you could get for $80 at some point. And they also did the Nighthawk. I highly recommend because they actually did one of those subscription servers. You know how they had the models like every 2 weeks you get a model.
Yeah, like the magazine.
Yeah, so they did that with the Nighthawk, and so on eBay and stuff, you could get that stuff for cheap. I got 40 chain gas. I think I spent $30.
Oh, crazy!
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's like I got 40 of them now. It was one of those ones like it's so
like,
cheap.
It's like when Indomitus came out. It was like you could just get everything really cheap, particularly the Necrons, because everybody wanted the Space Marines.
Yeah, and so you kind of like, and I think that's what that was really good for because a lot of people wanted the Stormcast, or they came with like always came with an odd number of. It was such a weird thing. I think when they released it, what they thought Nighthawk was going to be, they ended up changing the unit size. Yeah, so you got like one extra here. Or
really?
Yeah, and like the starter set with the Soul Wars, you didn't have enough of the what are they called? Doesn't matter, but essentially they didn't have the right unit size. They were undersized, as so you couldn't actually use them in the game.
Oh,
but it was a weird, but it was perfect for Warcry.
Yeah, okay.
Because adding to that as well, obviously you got Underworlds, which is another thing that feeds Warcry directly with gorgeous miniatures and rules, usually, most of the time.
Yeah, so that's an interesting cycle. So what happens is Underworlds is on a rapid cycle. Like we're talking about Kill Team and Warcry, that's an annual cycle. They've done the quarterly box sets. Underworld seasons are pretty much every 6 months.
Yeah.
And releases a new box set, if you will, for the game with some slightly updated rules. And then there'll be like, up to half a dozen warbands released in that period.
Yeah.
And then those rules will get published in White Dwarf. That's the current cycle of how it's working. They were published in a special booklet.
You mean
like
the rules
Term
for
of Champions.
the Warcry?
Yep. And they'll appear in like a White Dwarf like a month or two after they hit the scene. Yeah. Except for those Nevermaze guys like the Witch Hunters and a couple of the others.
Still waiting for Hexbane's Hunters, I believe. And the Goblin ones as well. Am I thinking of Goblin ones? There's one that's missing anyway.
Yeah. The Goblins on the Wolves. You know about?
Yes.
I forgot about those guys.
They're really cool.
They've they've got rules.
Rip Snare or
something like
that. I think we would be remiss to talk about Warcry and not talk a little bit around narrative a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know none of us have played any of the campaign stuff yet. No. I have done a bit of reading around
but I want to. I think we all want to play some campaign.
I mean, narrative's how I like to play all my games. So
And I think obviously we're all Necro players, and probably a largely Necromunda audience. So narrative is in the DNA.
And Mordheim as well, because I guess for me, me and you specifically, and you as well to some degree, you don't know much about Mordheim, do you?
No, nothing.
So when Warcry came out, I initially looked at it and gone, look, they're trying to make Mordheim. Sorry, when Warcry came out, they're trying to make Mordheim current, I suppose, by making an Age of Sigmar version of Mordheim. Obviously, I was very wrong off the mark there because there's nothing like it. But I was looking for things that draw from Mordheim, to enjoy in Warcry, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And there are a few things. But yeah, the one thing that I want, and I haven't looked at yet, is the narrative stuff. So please do fire away.
Yeah, there's been there's two versions. There was the original Warcry, which came out, which had effectively like a divergent campaign path.
Was it a Path to Glory?
That's
that's an actual chaos thing. Okay. There's a Path to Glory, which is kind of like you're staged to become a demon prince. And you have to slowly you build yourself up.
I'm not sure.
Which is where Warcry comes from, because a lot of them were trying to get in Archaon's favour to then become part of the Varangard or Chaos Warriors. So that's part of the path to glory.
So it may well be. So, I actually haven't done any reading on the original campaign stuff. I just know that kind of, depending on the outcome of one game, would dictate what the next game was, and so on and so forth.
Let's do that again.
Oh no!
Just the lights, don't worry. Version 2, I think, has got a lot more inspiration from Mordheim. So you can actually run a campaign in perpetuity. It doesn't need to have an end.
Yeah.
And it manages the power creep quite well, I think, around that. So as you go on, you don't have gold. You get glory points. You get a bit of glory for winning. You get glory for playing.
So a bit like rep?
A little bit like rep. It does have renown as well, which is used as a slightly different measure.
That's more like rep then.
Yeah. And then basically you can spend glory to buy new fighters as you go along. Your fighters themselves, their stats can be improved, but not hardcore. So like a hero can get up to 3 heroic traits, I think they're called. Mm-hmm. And that might be like a +1 movement, or like the ability to use the universal inspiring presence ability for free once a game.
Okay.
A couple of things like that.
So not enough to break it. But
not enough, yeah, exactly. And I feel like Kill Team's narrative, what I played there, you can make some guys OP really quickly, especially with different loadouts. And same with Necro, right? You can just get them a fucking weapon. And
Same with 40k Crusade. They've gotten real bad.
So this limits it a fair bit. But it's also got 2 different aspects to narrative play as well. You've got quests. So quests, you've got a series of quests which you opt into, and you pick which quest you want to partake in for each of the Grand Alliance. So each Grand Alliance, I think, has 3. And in this season of the box sets, each bespoke team will have a set of 3 quests as well. So you can choose to partake in that, and that normally goes across multiple games.
Yeah, and it sounds very similar to the Age of Sigmar there. Campaign thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And then the outcome there might be like a loot table where you get a potential artifact. And the artifact, it could be a permanent thing, or it could be a consumable, or there's another one, a perishable, which means it can expire.
Yeah.
But it's not game breaking. The other persistent trait you have is something called an encampment, which is kind of cool. Encampment. So like where you camped. And there was an expansion for Mordheim which explored this. It was in one of the town cries or one of the post content where you picked your camp and you built that up. It doesn't go that in depth. It's basically you've got a particular location. It changes your points cap. So you can go up to like 1,100 points in your warband, and you can send your dudes off to do a special thing to maybe get an extra bit of treasure for a special table.
This is exactly the same as the Age of Sigmar one.
Oh, really?
And that's a campaign I went to set up at the club. And it is a very good system. And if it's what I think it is, it's really fun.
Yeah, okay. What's interesting about that...
especially the buildings part.
And what sounds like they've got it right is that, say, for example, in Necromunda, what happens I tend to find with a lot of it, not so much me because I've played so much of it, I don't get as attached to fighters as I used to. I used to get really like upset when your gang leader dies or something. You'd be devastated. You'd be like, And same in Blood Bowl. You built a Ag 5 Dark Elf with Blodge and every single skill possible.
You do have an injuries table and lasting injuries, and they can die.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure they can, but it sounds like you can't develop them to the point where you get that attached. It's like. They don't get so beefy that you're like, if I lose this guy, it's going to change.
You're going to build your entire gang around this one guy.
Yeah. Basically, there's still a fighter card at the core, and they might move a little bit faster and get access, and at the end of, 6 weeks, have 2 extra buffs. Yeah. And they might have a special sword or something, but...
a pork sword?
A what?
A pork sword?
Maybe. I didn't get that.
Sorry.
Didn't get that reference.
Apologies. That's a very British thing to say. You won't understand that one, but I'm sure you can imagine what I mean.
Yeah. I'm getting it. Anyway, so that's cool. The encampments you can actually lose. So they can be like discovered and attacked. Not attacked over a game, but you can lose them. So basically, your buffs are potentially temporary.
Sounds very cool.
Those quests can be multifaceted, so you have to play X amount of games, build up X amount of points on, something to
it's a good system. So like, it's not like a thing where you can like pick like unpick this quest and then the next game I have all these extra attacks. I'm like, no, it's over the form of campaign. You need to play about 3 games and then you'll get the quest and then get that reward.
Yeah.
Which is good because it's like encouraging you to play more.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to put in the hours.
And I feel like those ones, it seems like a lot better system compared to other ones because you can actually, there we go, the second one goes out. It spreads the campaign longer.
Yeah.
So it's not like a thing where if you get to 8 weeks, all of a sudden everyone's really overpowered. Whereas this one, like, you have to play 3 games before you even get a minuscule thing.
Yeah. People aren't running around with, like, plasma cannons. The other aspect it has besides quests, something called campaign arcs. And this is an interesting concept I haven't actually seen done before. It's a set of subsequent games that follows a particular narrative. So each of the Hearts of Gur, or this last year's releases, have got a couple in each of their books. Yeah. And one's normally based on the warbands in the box. So like it might be Horns of Ashut and Rotmire Creed are fighting out, and they've got a particular backstory around why they're fighting and why they hate each other. Yeah. And you play it over 3 matches. And that might be 90 minutes or 2 hours. So you can smash them out. But each of the books will normally have a specific to the warbands in the box, but also a more generic one. And that can be played with like 4 players. And it might be like trying to find the Sendrinal or the Talaxis or whatever the kind of Seraphon ruins are. Yeah.
I'm curious how they...
Could you repeat that again?
Okay.
Just that last bit.
Seraphon ruins.
Seraphon ruins. Sorry, I was like, what are Talisman called?
Seraphon. Yeah.
Seraphon.
I know. I forgot what I was going to say. I was about to say something and I completely forgot. I was curious how they do the expansions in the future, whether they've already done it already. I know in the Age of Sigmar, how they've done expansions, like this current season is in the Realm of Gur, and so they released a whole narrative book. And then it has all this like campaign stuff that's based in the Realm of Gur, and it's like how Necromunda is, where it's an optional expansion. But you can actually, if you have the book personally and you're playing in a campaign with other people that don't, they don't have to use it. How it works is when you have obviously if you want to use that personally, essentially what's happened is you've gone to that realm and set up an encampment there. And then you expand, then you have your own quests, because all the quests are personal, it doesn't involve anyone else. And so it's one of those ones where it's now become, if you want to take on the expansion, you can. And then you can have your own lore, because your warband has now gone into this realm and then expanded with these quests. Which I imagine they'll do the same, because it seems like a very...
Maybe. So it's very much set in Narwood.
Yeah.
The quests are very much personal quests. You take them on, doesn't really matter who your opponent is. Some of them...
Can you play solo at all? Funny question, I know, but...
Some people... In Warcry?
The campaign stuff.
Okay, mate, you could. I don't see, you could... if you play with
other
people that are happy with... Yeah.
Yeah, no, you kind of... Not really solo. Like, it's still...
Well, I ask because you do have solo Necromunda, scenarios, things like that. And there are people who just aren't around mates and haven't got mates to play with. So it'd be good to know if they're
I would say, realistically, it's not set up that way.
Yeah, right.
Rules is how they've been created.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. You could do it.
You could do a thing where you choose which quests to do and then you want to build your encampment, but no one's going to be taking it.
Ultimately, you're still achieving those quests by playing the actual game, not just the meta.
I wonder...
I want to flip... Sorry to interrupt.
No, you go.
I will go back to what you're saying, where will it go next? They've actually putting their brakes on the box sets. So they've done a kill team, released quarterly boxes. The terrain, whilst looking unique, it's kind of looked the same-ish.
Well, it's been 3 or 4 boxes with the
4 boxes terrain, now, and it's all like bamboo and like mean trees.
I mean, it's cool, but how much of that do you actually need? You only need one of them.
Exactly. But next up, they're releasing a starter set, which will probably be like $100, 2 Underworld size teams.
Yeah.
And then they're just releasing warbands for next year.
Yeah.
So no more boxes. I'm not sure what they'll do with the narrative content, if they'll let the Gur content sit.
I think that all changes, because I think next year, I think there's talk of the new version of Age of Sigmar, which means that'll move all that into a new realm based, because that was all in the realm of beasts, and that's how I've been running at the moment.
When did the last Age of Sigmar come out?
2-3 years ago.
Surely they're not due for another one yet.
They're on like 4-year cycles now.
Really?
The same with 40k. 9th editions.
Okay. I can.
But there's talks of like leading up to that. Obviously, whether it's it won't be next, as in, because they're schedule is January, whereas 40k is in middle of the year. And so it won't be this upcoming one, but be end of next year. And so it makes sense they put the hold, because if they're moving the narrative now into a different realm.
So effectively it's 5 quarters, because you've got a starter set released over the next 3 months, and then a year's worth of just warbands.
There we are. That makes sense then, end of next year.
Yeah, they'll probably, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And they'll probably tie into the next AOS release.
Did they actually indicate at Warhammer Fest that they were intending to shift the realm, or are they staying in Gur?
That should be directed at Glenn.
I don't think they said anything about changing realms.
No. But
you can be in every realm, but I think that all changes because the general handbook doesn't come out until the end of the year, and that's when the seasons change. And the current season is in Gur, and it has been for a while. And so whether they change that in the handbook, but because that is at the end of the year, they weren't going to announce it at Warhammer Fest.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Anyway, I think what they've realised with Warcry is that Chaos has had a lot of love.
Yes.
The first version.
Yes, but it hasn't had enough love because they were supposed to do Slaanesh and they didn't.
Because
they did the Rockmire Creed, Nurgle. Yeah. They did, who was the Zinchi ones? The Jade Obelisk?
Jade Obelisk, yep.
And they did a corny one with the Flesh Hound guys.
Yeah, the guys who want to be doggos.
I actually want those guys. Yeah, they're fantastic. And
Karanax Fiends?
Claws.
But where's the Slaanesh one?
Yeah.
No one gives a Slaanesh. It's fine.
Oh, mate. Not happy about that.
I feel like, I think there has been a bit of chatter around the warbands in this one. Were they really meant for Warcry? It's Stormcast Eternals.
And the ghouls.
And the ghouls, yeah. But the Stormcast Eternals are like same sprue twice over.
Yeah.
For example, which is a bit weird. And they've kind of... Anyway.
But to be fair, you can build it so many different ways. That's the way it's been built. It's meant to be... You can make so many different heroes.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're talking about the new box for Warcry, which has Sigmarines and...
Flesh-eater Court.
Flesh-eater Court. But I've got to say, I'm not excited by any of it, especially not the giant pyramid.
Reading the rules
Flesh-eater Court's I'm excited about.
You're loving the ghouls, the Flesh-eater Court, and reading the rules on the Stormcast, actually pretty good. Like they're pretty... As far as gameplay wise,
I'm sure they are. For me, it's an underwhelming box set. I wanted more unique Warcry stuff.
I think what they have realised with looking at the roadmap is that the large portion of the fan base are playing it with AOS teams. Like all the tournaments, it's probably three quarters AOS, a quarter bespoke.
Yeah,
and so over the next 12 months, the releases, none of them are Chaos. They've actually said which order they're from. I think I can't remember the ratios, but a heap of destruction, a heap of order, and a few death as well.
I was actually looking at the rankings from the tournament that was at the Warhammer Fest thing, and the top half of the table. In fact, I don't think there was a bespoke warband in the top half of the table out of 50-something warbands.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe one.
I did read...
But it was all Soulblight Gravelords pretty much dominating everything. Some Caradron Overlords as well.
What's interesting there is that a lot of the bespoke teams, I did have a look at some of those lists, were in a box, single box lists.
Yeah.
Where it's what's on the sprue.
No allies sort of thing.
More so than what you get built on the sprue is what you play with.
Yeah.
And what you're starting to find, I think, having been playing with the Legionaries and I with the Golems, is that that may not be the most effective loadout.
No.
None of them are mandatory fighters, and you've got a nice variety of sculpts. But what you actually might want is 6 chaff, which costs 50 points.
Exactly.
But you actually need to buy 3 bespoke boxes.
And neither of those particular warbands even have that option. So.
Whereas like the AOS teams, if people have got a larger army, it's a lot easier to cherry pick the right models to make the right list.
Especially if you're buying chaff. You're buying chaff and they usually come in a box of 10.
Yeah.
Particularly something like your vampires who can have skeletons and ghouls and werewolves and all sorts of cool shit. Very much variation of stuff. Really elite and real chaff. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, even the popular Stormcast lists. Sure, they've got lots of the easy to build models, they've been super accessible. Get them on eBay super cheap, but they might have half a dozen of the same fighter card.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't really have that in the bespoke teams. Yeah. You'll have like max 2 of that particular type.
Yeah,
and then you might have some of these different ones, but actually they're less effective.
So what you're saying is if you wanted to sort of optimize any of the bespoke sort of warbands, you'd actually need to buy several boxes.
Yeah,
and allies.
Beautiful way to summarize it. Yeah.
And several boxes is expensive, especially here.
Yeah, exactly. So then you're running a few $100.
Yeah,
and not all easy to come by either.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the old bespoke teams are hard enough to come by these days anyway. Some of them I wish you could rebuy, but you can't anymore. So I think if they're going to if like say if you're like, I want new Chaos ones, I'm like, just re-release the old ones so you can actually access it again.
Yeah, totally. It's funny, they released the Corvus Cabal, which are the crow-looking dudes.
I like those guys. Yeah, I sold those guys recently.
I was looking through some of the White Dwarves over the last year, and they had bespoke rules created for those for this current season. But you can't buy the models. Yeah. You can't get them second hand.
I thought you still could.
They're made to order on GW website, but they're permanently out of stock, so you can't purchase.
I just assumed you could still buy them. I haven't looked.
And they're not in a Slaves to Darkness double pack like the Iron Golems are.
I think the snake ones are hard to get as well. The old
Splits of Fang.
Yeah, I think they're a bit harder.
Guys.
Yeah. So I feel like a few of those, I'm like, just don't release new. Like, just get them so we can get the old ones.
Well, the old 6, was it 6?
Yeah.
Was it 6? I think it was 6 warbands initially that they released that were just like the 6 houses in Necromunda almost. Yeah, you had the Splintered Fang, you had the Unmade, the Corvus Cabal, and then the Iron Golems.
Feathermew, Spire Tyrants.
They came later.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I get what you're saying. Okay, yep.
And there was like 6 initial drops, and you're saying those are all hard to get hold of.
That's what you're talking.
Yeah.
The Unmade are easy.
Mate,
it's not consistent though. If it was the original 6, I go like, oh yeah, there's unavailable. But like the Unmade, you can still get. There's a couple of the original ones.
Iron Golems, you can still get a big double pack of.
Right? Yeah, so some were released as slaves, as like.
So they got Slaves to Darkness, and so they're actually all built in. All the gangs, the war bands. So they're all well played in Age of Sigmar, and the recent battle.
Shit though, aren't they?
No, the recent battle tone they got, they're really good. So now they're actually like good cultists.
Well, I heard the Splintered Fang you're talking about.
No, all of the.
Oh, because I know the Splintered Fang is supposed to be particularly strong.
I think so, but the recent battle tome came out, but all the Warcry warbands are available, and they're very good. But again, it's like the same with you said, like the rules are there, but you can't buy some of them.
Yeah. How strange.
So and I feel like they'll move on now.
Yeah.
Like G-Dubs will. As in like cool, we did runs of those. Yeah. We might make them, made to order, but largely we want to make new sculpts and progress the IP. And
any predictions on the forthcoming warbands? Are they moving away from Chaos? Are they going to be doing some dwarves and some elves and stuff like that? Do you think?
Cities of Sigmar definitely get a look in from.
So I could do with an Empire sort of free guild company.
I'm going to put my maybe money down for next year, possibly with the next one. Regular dwarf, the Dispossessed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That we haven't had.
Say that again.
The Dispossessed.
The regular dwarves.
So the regular dwarf. So they were part of the Cities of Sigmar, which is the big one there, but they kind of split it off. Lore-wise, Grungy, a couple of the gods have come back.
Okay.
And there's talk of uniting all the dwarves. And actually having their own same with how they're done with the Orc battle tome. They ended up combining all of them. So
I'm not being funny, but like back in the 90s, the 80s and 90s particularly, dwarves were, I mean, from my memory, the most popular faction in all of fantasy. Well, so many people played and collected dwarves that I remember anyway. Yeah. Certainly where I was. They were so popular, and nowadays they hardly even exist. Really, it seems
there's 2 armies.
Well, it's 2 armies. Yeah, you got your Caradrans and stuff, but then I'm talking about like your old-fashioned Longbeards and Hammerers and stuff like that.
I think it's just
you've still got them, but the models need seriously.
It's just they haven't come around to refreshing the range. Yeah. And like we were saying about the humans, the Empire dudes.
Yeah.
Oh boy, are they looking good though?
Yeah, they're looking good.
The new ones, yeah.
Oh my lord!
But you can still play with your old fantasy Empire dudes, looking like your German bratwursts, and a bit weird in this high fantasy world, right? Where it's 4,000 years later in a different culture.
Yeah, I suppose
and they're still wearing their big feathers.
Yeah,
but Dispossessed, but that's probably next season. Chaos Dwarves.
Well,
they've got the Hushut already.
Yeah, they have to, right? That's teasing it.
Is it Hushut?
Yeah, but like humans, horns of Hushut.
But Hushut is the
god of the Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah.
So the gods in the lore, but I mean they don't have the models.
Yeah, they don't have the models, but I'm saying they're kind of done Hushut. As in their god that they follow.
Yeah.
But they still could do the Chaos Dwarves, and I think they should have Chaos Dwarves.
Well, Total War's just done them.
Yep.
Apparently, so they've got to bring them back. But then Old World, Old World's probably going to do that. So, whether this will do it as well in crossover, I'm not sure.
I've got no idea how much they'll rehash some of the different races as well. Like, will they do another Cruel Boys? Even though you've got a shitload of Cruel Boys minis already from all the because they won the flagship teams.
Yeah.
But will they do another bespoke for them or their first bespoke? Who knows?
A good one would be Ogres.
Yeah,
They would be a good little Warcry.
They do have a.
They have a dedicated one.
Yep.
Oh, they do.
So they
have a, what do you call it?
They don't have a bespoke. They've got a list though.
But yeah, they've got a list, and you can use the models, and they've also got models from the what's it called, Underworld, but as in like in a box, as in with the unique. How they've done with the recent like Flesh-Eater Courts and stuff.
Yeah,
like technically they've got those models, but
yeah,
he's a refresh, or he's like a unique.
Probably a lot of
because they're overdue for an overhaul, so but they're not going to get one anytime soon.
Well, I think
so. I'll gift them with a couple of new.
We can all admit that we've just kind of forgotten about the massive elephant in the room that is Skaven. That the models are just so old and so bad. Sorry, but they are. And everybody loves Skaven. Who doesn't love Skaven?
You can still buy the Mordheim models.
Really? The gutter runners,
the sculpts that came out in the Mordheim box set. You can still buy them. They're the same ones.
Thing is, I love Skaven. Jez Goodwin's old school Skaven are so much better than these current ones that we've got and we've had for ages. So, but the ones that have been released in Underworlds, fantastic.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they look great.
They're really cool. I think there's been 2 warbands through Underworlds. Skaven. There was an Ashen one, and there was a sort of clan.
The one with the assassin, he's kind of going with the pipe, is it?
That's always the broken arch or something. He's leaning down with the venomous blade.
I think what we need is a Warcry dedicated Skaven warband as well. But they'll get around to doing.
And they are chaos.
They are. Yeah.
So then they're not on the roadmap.
Who isn't?
Because they are chaos now. Skaven.
Yeah, God, that's annoying.
But is it technically bespoke, they said? Kind of like those kind of gods? Or is this kind of a separate army?
No, on the roadmap, they said what Grand Alliance.
Oh, okay. Then
they're aligning to.
There's definitely no Skaven.
So no Skaven, sorry, man.
So no Slanesh, no Skaven, maybe Dwarves. All right, cool.
Yeah, there's a few destructions in there, which makes sense considering it's set in the realm of beasts. Which is the heartland of the orcs or the orcs.
That would make sense. So we probably we'll probably get a beastman. No, that's not destruction, is it? That's chaos.
That's chaos again.
Chaos.
Who the fuck is destruction? Ogres, orcs.
Ogres, 3 different breeds of orcs, and Goomspite gets the gobos.
Oh yeah, everybody loves those guys.
Yeah.
Also seem to be very popular at tournaments and stuff as well. The Gits, I believe. Or people love playing them anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
Squigs and stuff.
There's a fair bit of variety there as well.
Yeah.
They've got a special, unique rule with the Goomapalooza.
Yeah.
Where they are all
you can get them
allies,
anymore either.
Oh man, they look amazing.
Yeah, they're cool.
Little trippers. Yeah.
There's a guy called Bug-Eye or something, or Boggle Eyes.
I've got no fucking idea what they do. I just want to buy them because they look like just mad bastards.
They're all twisted up on meth, pretty much.
They've been brewing their shrooms a fair bit.
Yeah. I do like the miniatures. They're just very comical for me. I tend to find they don't go with my grimdark sort of leanings, I suppose, too much.
You could make them grimdark.
You could, yeah.
The Cruel Boy is definitely the grimdark variant.
Cruel Boys are unique in that I've always hated orcs until they came out, and I was like, actually, you know what? These are pretty cool. Give them sort of like realistic non-green skin tones, and they'll look really creepy.
I just love the concept of it. Like orcs in like fantasy, they're all brutal. Now we've got the cunning orcs.
These ones are cunning and brutal.
They're cunningly brutal. Not brutally cunning.
Yeah. But I love the fact that they've got sort of short legs and long arms. They're kind of quite simian looking.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I fall in and out of love with them. Sometimes I think they look absolutely amazing, and some things I think they're disgusting. Not disgusting in a good way though.
I think it's the faces.
I like the faces don't work. The shields I love the shields so
great,
much.
Yeah. Give them human heads, make them really creepy.
Oh, they would be super creepy.
Yeah. I mean, there are loads of third party head swaps that you could do. Maybe give them pig heads or something like that.
Yeah,
pretty cool. I've seen a few pig heads. Talking of third party stuff, we may as well finish up there on Warcry, I reckon. But talking of third party stuff, did you have anything?
I think we've probably touched on it. It was around the Warcry content providers. So Salty Sea, that seems to be, he covers a lot of the meta.
Yeah.
Optimal Game State covered Warhammer Fest, but also does a lot of the bit of a broader picture, bit more entry level, and Tabletop Skirmish Games is more more entry level again.
Yeah.
I think. So good places to start.
You know what you talked about last episode about Rob's Acolyte game? Yep. Do you think you could do something similar with Warcry?
I don't see why you couldn't.
Like port the mechanics over to a narrative-driven...
There's no reason why you can't, because like the mechanics are so straightforward and simple.
Yeah.
So that'd be... I'd really like to see someone have like kind of narrative building.
Let's do it.
Because 100% you could build a game.
So I think what you need to do there is just you'd make an AI tree. Sorry, not a fancy. Sorry, that sounds so much fancier than what I meant. As in, like just a table of what the enemy is meant to do.
Yep. If they're within so many inches,
within 3 inch, within whatever. Yeah. Which wouldn't be too crazy. And you've got stuff like that for like Cursed City and the like as well. I think so. Where you can play solo, and you've got the decision tree for your fictional opponent.
Yeah.
So you could easily build something out, I reckon, for Warcry.
I'd like that. That'd be really cool.
Well, that's what we need to get onto Rob for.
Yeah.
Other Rob.
Other
Rob. Did you have any community focuses that you wanted to talk about?
Not community. More third party, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. Fire away.
I want to do a shout out to Battle Kiwi.
Oh yeah.
So Battle Kiwi, they're in New Zealand. If you didn't quite get that.
Not everybody knows where Kiwis are from.
They specialize in like tools and things to assist with games.
Right.
And so like one of the things they come up with is kind of points calculator and things. What are they called? The knobs and stuff where you calculate your victory points and all that sort of thing.
Little dashboard.
Dashboard. Cool. But what they actually do is they print out these things in plastic, and as the name of each of the the tactic you might have chosen for that thing and chosen next to it. And you actually open up the thing and it has every single one that could have.
Oh, cool.
So if you suddenly decide like, these are the 3 things I want to achieve in this game, take it out, take out the tactics, put it on top of your actual things. So you actually remember what one you're going for. And actually how they do it though is every time there's a new update, they release a small section of just those little tokens so you can keep your thing up to date without buying a new one.
Very cool.
Oh, nice. That's very clever.
Multi-systems or just...
Yes, so they do that for 40k. They do that for Age of Sigmar. For Warcry, they actually do. They print it off an MDF thing. It's pretty cheap. It's like $13. But it's like a little block thing, but it has things for like a section, like a dice.
Put your dice in.
Dice for round. There's things
those,
for your dice and like your doubles, triples, and so you can actually put them together.
Very cool.
And it's like I said, that was only like $13, something like that. And it's like it seems like such a fun, like a nice thing to have because I know every time I play Warcry, it's like moving your dice around. Like where are my triples? Where are my doubles?
It would stop Damon picking up his ability dice and rolling them all the time, and then remembering what value they were.
I did that a lot.
You do that a lot.
I've done that a lot. Yeah. The other thing, just going back to Warcry again quickly, that I don't like is the amount of tokens on the table. We need to figure out the best, most optimal way of decluttering.
So effectively what Damon's talking about here is measuring wounds.
Yeah.
That's what it comes out. There's some great, on Etsy, there's a lot of little dials.
They're
about $30 for 5, so I haven't bought any. I'm like, well, for 10 I can buy another warband. So
true.
So I've gone that path instead.
Well, if there's anyone out there who makes them, send them our way.
But I had, and you get them which are like 0 to 9, and another one with little dials do 10s, 20s, 30s.
Like a D20 is pretty good for that sort of stuff as well. But again, you'd like to have something that's very like points to them and go, there's that.
We used D20s, didn't we?
Yeah, especially for me because I had the corn.
You've kind of reverted back to the tokens.
I prefer the tokens because they're flat. So when I say tokens, you've got like 1, 3, 5, and 10, like numbers on these little kind of arrow tokens that come with the box. I prefer them because the D20s were too high. Like I actually found them, they're a third of the size of the model. I kept on bumping them and not knowing. They really need some sort of like. I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking if I could design it on CAD. It's like a little thing that clips onto the base.
Don't tell everyone your secret.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I've got a great idea. If anyone wants to talk to me about manufacturing, hit up the YouTube comments and we'll chat.
So you want to patent that shit, man?
There needs to be a better way to manage wounds.
It does.
And Kill Team would work for Kill Team as well.
I think what helps in this game is you can get cards for each one of your characters. I think then having the dice on that character rather than on the board. I think that's the real way to go.
A lot of people do that, actually. Yeah,
and I know that's the better way of doing it.
Especially because you make the custom one where you actually take a photo of your model and you're like, that's nice.
The trouble is, if you're on the other side of the table when you're doing that, I can't visually see who's got what on the board, and I quite like a way of seeing who's gone and who's got however many wounds left personally, but that's just me.
I agree. I'd like to see it on the board. Like, I know that, okay, they've got 4 wounds left. I'm going to fuck them up. And I don't.
Exactly.
I won't think of that front of mind.
Yeah.
But there are, so wound dials are about 2 to 3 centimeters, so they're not tiny. That seems to be the best current solution.
Yeah,
that I've seen, but I think there could be a better one. And you
let us know.
I'd
like to know from the community. Let us know in the comments what you do about Warcry wounds and stuff. Because so far we're all getting new to the game, so we kind of want to know the best way of doing it. It would be
exactly the same for Kill Team as well. Kill Team's the same challenge. You normally just use D6s and stack them up next to each other.
I mean, even Necromunda has that problem with blaze tokens, this and that tokens, but it's not quite as bad because you have to keep track of a vast amount of wounds. And stunned, prone, it's pretty easy to lie a model on its back or forward. You don't have to do that with Warcry, which is great actually, because you never have to place your lovely painted miniatures on their face or on their back and scratch them all up. Yeah, that's quite nice. That's one thing that's nice about Warcry as well. Cool. All right. So the next thing we were going to talk about. Sorry, moving back to what you were saying about the
Battle Kiwi.
Yes. Did you finish up?
So no, it was one of the other thing they do, which I think is a huge one. I played a game of Age of Sigmar with it. Is obviously when they went from 6x4 to 40 by whatever the new measurement tables they have for the minimum one. Everyone tried to bring out different things where you can make the table slightly smaller and stuff. They released a kind of MDF thing that kind of like made it perfect. So if it's on a 6x4 table, put these 2 things here and it covers it all up. But on the MDF thing, actually has all like key things about the rules to remember, your heroic abilities, like you kind of like imagine Warcry had like the default abilities, and it was just always there. There's just things to remember.
What's it made of?
MDF.
Oh, okay. What's like a fold up?
No, it's just like it's like almost like they're like it's terrible for radio. About elbow to hand, and they're kind of like jigsawed in. So there's like things, so you just put them together.
Yeah, okay, so multi-part.
And you just put them together, and then it has like it's the fact that it has the key rules, things to remember. This like for round 1, this is the turn order and things like that. So it's kind of like nice little tips. So you're getting the board down, nice. And then
I have seen some nice in a similar vein for Warcry. A couple of the Etsy ones have got like a slot for your abilities card that you often get with the warbands if you buy one of the bespoke teams. Yeah. And so it fits that in, and underneath it's got the universals as well.
That's cool.
Little things like that. It's I think they're beautiful quality of life craftsmanship.
That was the other thing with that Battle Kiwi, the Warcry one, is that the end had a slit, so you can actually put your 6 default card at the end.
Cool.
So you can actually see directly, like, okay, there's my abilities.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Battle Kiwis?
Battle Kiwi.
I'm going to check them out after this.
Yeah, were they based in Auckland?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know where in New Zealand, but
okay,
it's all one place, isn't it?
Yeah. Not really.
We love you, Kiwis.
It's obviously a lot smaller than Australia, but it's still pretty big. Yeah, still pretty big. So yeah, well, I guess we're heading towards the end of the podcast now. Things to talk about though, as we had a competition in the last episode. Do you remember?
Yes, we.
Yeah,
I remember.
Do you remember what was up for grabs?
That was your beloved.
That's my Cordal gang, wasn't it?
So, yeah.
We put that out to all the patrons, and the question was which gangs we were all playing in the current campaign here in Melbourne, and quite a few people got it right. No one got it wrong, actually. I don't think. But the first one to answer was, in fact, where's my drum roll? Here it is. Oh, here it comes. You can't hear it at all, which is really weird. Oh. The winner is Simon De Silva. Woo! So well done, Simon. Really, really good there. I'll be packaging those up and sending them your way really, really soon. Well done on that one. I haven't got anything this time round because I'm running out of gangs now. I'm actually selling quite a few of them off at the moment just to sort of recoup some of the credit card losses. It needs to be done. It needs to have a clear out every now and then, I think. It's quite important to do. Shout outs. Have we got any other shout outs and stuff?
You had a couple of Q&As over the last
I did actually. Oh, we did have a couple of Q&As, but I didn't write them down, did I? Have you got them? Do you want to bring them up while I quickly do a couple of shout outs?
Yeah, I'll pull them off my phone. Hold up.
The first shout out though was a big one. I forgot to do this last time, so I do apologise, guys. But this is Pauteroa. which you guys won't know what means, but Aotearoa is the name of New Zealand. And Pautearoa is the Blood Bowl podcast that's dedicated to New Zealand Blood Bowl. So a couple of mates over there that I used to be part of in the Blood Bowl scene. Just a massive shout out to you over there. And thanks for mentioning the channel on the last one of your episodes as well. That was really cool. Another massive shout out for Jimmy as well at Miniature Game Montage. Really good guy over in Texas in America. Plays, I did a little thing with him a little while ago on YouTube as well. Yeah, nice. Hopefully we can do some more collabs in the future, but he's doing really well. He's got quite a few fans now. It's nice to see him succeeding and doing very well, but does similar sorts of stuff and lots of battle reports as well. So really, really good. Yep. Really, really good content. So definitely check him out as well. Were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah. And also shout out to my beautiful wife, Brianna, because my mum got a shout out and she says, why didn't I get a shout out? So there we are.
Yeah, awesome. And of course, massive shout out. And it's been a while. I don't know why I haven't mentioned this before, but Chris and Steve from Some City Radio, huge inspiration to me. You guys are the Necromunda podcast, so props go to you before anything, really. So you've obviously inspired what we're doing here as well. But that is purely Necromunda. If you haven't listened to Some City Radio, I'd definitely go and check those guys out.
Some City Radio.
Yeah, so good. And they have a very much a huge podcast. It goes very long, but it's really entertaining. Loads of like in-character stuff as well. So did you bring up those questions?
Cool. I do indeed. First one is from Simon.
And this is the winner of the competition, I believe.
Simon De Silva. I have often wondered how GW managed to continually produce great products, particularly Necromunda, but consistently write rules with huge holes, discrepancies, and inconsistencies. Is it almost as though it is a KPI or part of the job description? Is it laziness, rushed deadlines? I find it hard to believe some of the issues that continually arise are missed in playtesting.
Oh, what do we think?
Statement more of a question, probably per se. I think it's the nature of working on a business. If it was people who are doing this for the love of their heart, but it's a business which does have deadlines, does have staff turnover.
I completely agree. I think they kind of churn, I'm not saying churn things out, but they have to get it out. You can have so many QA tests, but some things can just go through the loop. But I think people don't realise just how in advanced a lot of these things are. So something obviously like games coming out now, I'm like, that could have been done 2 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
And he goes, and it's already gone to print. And if it's already gone to print, they can't really go fix it then. So it's a shorter window than you think, even though there's a long 2 years, but they took it to print 12 months ago and hadn't been done yet.
It's interesting that this question comes up because I actually recorded a video today, which I'll be putting out on YouTube, about the good and bad things about Necromunda specifically. And one of the bad things that I mentioned was the just the amount of mistakes and the fact that they have to keep on errataing things constantly. It pisses me off, and it pisses a lot of people off, especially when you buy a book which is full of mistakes, and then you buy another book and it's trying to correct all those mistakes, and it's hard to keep track of. On the flip side of that, though, you're also really thankful for the fact that you've got all this support and all this stuff coming out. So it's salty and sweet, I suppose. It's like, would you rather them not do it at all and not make mistakes, or would you rather put it all out and make mistakes? I think the answer to that is we'd rather they put it all out and didn't make the mistakes, but how do they not have someone who's dedicated proofreader just checking this stuff?
Obviously the obvious solution is living rules.
Yeah.
But I think a substantial portion of GW's revenue would be their publishing arm. As in, they create a lot of books and they get printed, they sell a lot of copies, and they've got some great lore in them, great art. Like these are great publications. So by creating that into living rules, so like a digital rule book where it would be constantly correct, you'd lose on such a core part of their business model. That's why they haven't done it, I think.
You're saying it's deliberate?
The mistakes are not deliberate, but as far as what Glenn was saying, as in, getting a master of your files and then sending them off to China 6 months in advance, that is very much deliberate.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, I hope that answers your question there. What's the second question?
Second question is from Dave. Are any of you thinking about taking the plunge into 10th edition? I tried the boarding action with my Mantis Warriors, the most misunderstood Marines in the galaxy, and it was fun.
Most misunderstood? I think the Alpha Legion or a few other of the legions.
Well, they're well understood.
Are you taking a plunge into 10th?
Not anytime soon, no.
Why?
Because I can turn a small hobby into an expensive hobby. So an expensive hobby will turn into an extremely expensive hobby for my buying patterns.
As far as I'm concerned, I haven't played any 40k really properly since the 2nd edition. a long time. However, I do have a Minotaur's Force, probably 2,000 or 3,000 points worth of Minotaurs that I brought over, that I'm kind of on the verge of sort of, shall I sell it? Shall I keep it? I think I might wait till 10th and just keep on to it, and then hopefully have a couple of games. If I like it, great. If I don't, I'll sell it.
I'm all in, baby. I'm buying a new army. I'm starting fresh.
I don't know how you can do it. I don't.
They're just diving head first.
Why not? It's fun. It's a hobby.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And I love the game. And there's heaps of people to play it. We're going to play more narrative. So, yeah, I'm all in.
Sweet. Okay.
I am liking the look of the Tyranids. I just want to see them painted up like the new models as aliens. You know, like black or, off black, or just look like...
Why does no one do that?
Evil as fuck.
Why does no one do dark purple Tyranids? Yeah.
I've seen a couple up there online, and they look amazing.
Yeah, I bet. Grimdark Tyranids.
That said, they look amazing for photographs. They probably just look like black, from 3 feet away playing a game. Yeah, so exactly. Definitely for the hobbyist part. Third question here is from Stephen. Stephen's about to start his first campaign. So here's a question for the podcast.
Necromunda.
I'm assuming Necro, yeah. Having played campaigns, what's the top 5 things you wish you knew before you started one?
Good question. Top 5 things I wish I'd known before I started a campaign. I don't know. Anyone else? I'm trying to think about it.
I guess before I started the thing, I dived in my Necromunda campaign last time, but it wasn't until like the end of the campaign that I really understood what made Delark great.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones where as soon as it finished, I'm like, I wish I did this, or if I set them up like this, or did the loadout a little bit differently. Not a meta thing, but in terms of like a fun, like this all makes them good.
How to lean into your respective game.
And how to make them more fluffy in a better way, as in like, they're meant to be sneaky. They're meant to be terrible. Don't feel bad about using web guns.
I think the thing for me, I remember playing my first campaign in the modern iteration of Necromunda, and I meta bashed the shit out of it. I played Vansar. I played aggressive competitive games, and I crushed everybody. And it was no fun at all.
No. He then got evicted from New Zealand.
But if anyone knows me from that first campaign, they were like, "Oh, you're such a dick. You had a fucking multi-melter on a Suspenser, and you did all this stupid shit." Yeah, I did. And I hated it afterwards. I was like, this is no fun at all. What am I doing? I'm not even enjoying the game. And I went completely the opposite way. And I was like, right, I'm going to limit myself to no heavy weapons. I'm going to limit myself to one particular champ. I'm going to limit myself to... I basically imposed a load of rules on myself.
Web gunner.
Yeah. Stop. He forgot all these learnings when he came to Australia. Yeah.
I was starting fresh again. No, but it's true. Like, you do. And I think...
Losing can be more fun than winning.
It can.
I would say that's
and I think playing Rule of Cool and narrative is so much better and so much more rewarding.
It's like so far this campaign of a chaos. Like every time I've played, I'm like, technically I should run away right now. That's not very chaos-like. I'm going head first.
I would say a learning, having played, is that losing can be fun, but continually losing when someone continually is winning can be shit. So your arbitrator needs to fix that up. As in, like, someone can snowball pretty easily, and if someone's playing to win and playing to min-max their list, then it's not going to be enjoyable down the line for you to play them.
Not at all. And it's not going to be enjoyable for the person playing it either, because no one will want to play them.
There's a gazillion different ways that the arbitrator can balance it and make that more interesting for everyone involved. So you should lean into them.
100%.
So I think at the end of the day, make sure it's fun. Yeah, I think that's the number key one. Make sure you're having fun. Other people are having fun.
Another quick tip for you, because Necromunda is so rules heavy and bloaty, and what tends to happen when you're starting out is you're leafing through books a lot and it takes a lot of time up in the game. Best thing to do if you have an argument over a rule or you're not sure, neither of you, is just fucking roll it off. Roll it off. It takes a lot less time. Look at the rule later and go, oh yeah, by the way, we should have done it this way. So much quicker.
The amount of times I played a game and I'll do this, I don't know, roll for it. As long as you played by the same rules for that game.
A gentleman's agreement.
Gentleman's agreement. Yeah. And so you go and then you find it after, we'll play that completely wrong, but it doesn't matter, we're both playing the same way.
Yes. Yeah, I 100% agree. I did that a fair bit last campaign, actually. Even just setup or interpreting a scenario.
Yeah.
The scenarios are so twisted and there's over 100 of them. There's 150 now.
Shitloads, yeah.
And some of them are balked. But it's all right, well, if we both do it the same way, then it's okay, it's fair.
Yeah.
It's like example, with my hallucinations I'm doing at the moment, I'm just kind of doing, what did I do? Every game I've
you limited yourself, didn't you?
I've limited myself.
Back to Necromunda, though.
It was like little things. Like what did I do?
What's that?
Just like I think it was a smaller game, so it's only like we only had 4 or 5 gangers each side, and my number one thing was like only one person could be done with hallucinations per, because otherwise like 3 turns in, all these gangs are now crazy. They've lost the plot, and that's not fun.
I hope that answers your questions there. I mean, that was quite a few questions, but I think that gets
top 5-ish. Last question here is from Max. Why is this? I think it's kind of to me a little bit, but a little bit to you. Why is House Orlok the best gang? And what are your favourite things about the house? Also, mention Orlok some more, as I know you love them.
Sounds like it's to you. Sounds like that one's to you.
I'll go first, and you can go second. You've just said farewell to your Orloks, so
I have.
What I like them because they're the most down to earth, realistic, salt of the earth gang.
Salt of the earth.
You know, like these are the workers. These are. I could see myself being an Orlok.
A bunch of blokes.
I can't see myself being an Escher or a Goliath who lives for 10 years. I'm like, yeah. Plus, I've ridden bikes for 20 years, so I've always got a soft spot.
You are a biker. Yeah, you are a biker. You have a beard.
I have bearded, covered in tattoos.
Do you ever wear a bandana or anything?
Do
you ever wear any chains or bandanas or anything?
No, but I just ride along and it was torn off. So
only a sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not my favourite gang, but they're not my least favourite either. They're very vanilla, and I think. On a serious note, they're probably the starting place for me if I was to really recommend one gang for a lot of people to start with in Necromunda, that it would be...
Vanilla can be such a fucking tasty flavour, though.
Oh, it's great.
Vanilla is underrated.
I don't want to eat watermelon. I want vanilla.
Yeah. It can be underrated, but they're really actually... since they had their own house book, they actually became really fun to play, particularly with Wreckers, I feel. Wreckers really added a lot of flair to them.
My Wrecker with the blasting charge, every single time thrown it, hasn't killed a single person. Killed himself 3 times.
Still had fun though.
Still had so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So rogue.
So yeah, they are good, and we do love them. How about you? What do you think of Orloks? You haven't played Orloks, have you?
I've never played Orloks. Don't know too much about them.
Oh yeah, we played once.
Oh, we played. Yeah, we played. That was fun.
Yeah, you had your Nutgul appear. Yes. And slaughter my leaders, and then you experience bolt of fire.
Yes, I found out the bolt gun.
Yeah. It's all good and well killing from the shadows, but when you get shot in the face afterwards,
that pretty much explains my entire thing with Nutgul. Like, go ahead, kill someone, then he's dead.
Yeah,
rip my leader to shreds. So
yeah, true.
I think it was nasty.
Anyone any more questions?
No, that's it. That's it for the questions.
I think that's pretty much us on this one then.
Yeah, cool.
Slightly shorter and sweeter this time, but not by much.
Just like a Warcry game.
Just like a Warcry game, exactly. I'm sure we've got plenty more to talk about when it comes to Warcry, and I'll definitely be doing more solo content on Warcry as well, up on the YouTubes. But for now, you'll have to guess what we're going to do next month, which system we're going to be talking about, whether we are switching back to something we've done before or going with something completely new. You'll have to wait and see. But please do like, share, subscribe, and obviously check out the Patreon as well in terms of direct support and whatnot. That's also where you'll win competitions and stuff that will come up as well, and have a bit more say in our Discord as well, because we've got a dedicated Discord for the patrons. But in the meantime, that's it from us. So peace out.
Catch you later.